Today, we're jumping into Sylvia Nasar's absolutely incredible biography, A Beautiful Mind. It is the story of John Nash, a mathematical genius whose mind basically reshaped economics. But his life was completely torn apart by schizophrenia, only for him to make one of the most stunning comebacks you'll ever read about, ending with a Nobel Prize. It's an amazing ride.
Right off the bat, this quote from a colleague just nails the central puzzle of John Nash. The guy was full of contradictions, he could be arrogant and difficult, but his mind was on another level. And it's this tension between the man and his mind that Sylvia Nasar explores so brilliantly in the book, A Man from Heaven.
So here are the basics on the book itself. It came out back in 1998, and it's so much more than just a typical biography. Nasar does this amazing job of weaving together really high-level math, the brutal reality of mental illness, and just a powerful story of human resilience. That's why it hit home with so many people.
All right, let's start by getting to know the man at the center of it all. The book paints this picture of Nash as a singular little boy, solitary and introverted, growing up in West Virginia. You know, he was that kid who wasn't out playing sports, he was turning his bedroom into a science lab. He was always more comfortable with ideas than with people. And honestly, that really set the stage for his entire life.
And that same solitude, that intense inner focus, was exactly what fueled one of the fastest rises to fame the academic world has ever seen. His journey from being this kind of weird kid that people called big brains to becoming a true giant of mathematics, well, it happened with breathtaking speed.
Just look at this timeline. It's wild. He gets into Princeton, which was pretty much the center of the mathematical universe at the time, at only 20 years old. And then, just 2 years later, at 22, he writes this short 27-page thesis that decades later would win him the Nobel Prize. It was just a pure explosion of genius.
And this was the big idea at the heart of that thesis, the Nash Equilibrium. It was completely revolutionary. It gave us a new mathematical language to understand how people, companies, and even countries make decisions. It wasn't just about board games. It was about economics, politics, biology, everything. It was a whole new way to look at conflict and cooperation.
This quote really gets at the beauty of his idea. At first, a lot of the big shots, including the legendary John von Neumann, kind of shrugged it off. It seemed too simple, but that was its power. The idea was so fundamental that once you understood it, you couldn't believe no one had thought of it before. And that, right there, is the mark of true genius. But here's the tragic turn. Just as Nash's star was rising, something dark was taking hold. The same brilliant mind that could see the hidden patterns in the universe started turning inward, creating its own terrifying reality, one built on paranoia and elaborate delusions.
And this is the gut-wrenching question that really drives the whole second half of the book. What happens when the very engine of your genius becomes the source of your own torment? The line between rational insight and absolute madness just completely blurs.
Nasar does an incredible job of showing how isolating schizophrenia is. From the outside, Nash just became incomprehensible. His friends, his family, they couldn't reach him anymore. He was separated from everyone by what the book calls a gulf which defies description.
And in this letter that Nash himself wrote, wow, you get a chilling peek inside that gulf. You can see the brilliant, logical mind is still there, but it's been hijacked. He's applying that incredible intellect to an insane premise, trying to find secret messages from aliens in numbers and letters.
So, for 30 years, think about that, 3 decades, the brilliant mathematician was just gone. He became known as the Phantom of Fine Hall, this strange, ghostly figure you'd see scribbling on blackboards around Princeton. He was completely lost to the world and to himself. But this is where the story does something that almost never happens in real life. Right when you think it's all over, a tragedy with no hope, this completely improbable, miraculous third act begins.
It's just unbelievable. There was no magic pill or breakthrough therapy. Nash just started to get better. He later said he made a conscious choice to fight the delusional thoughts with rational thinking. And none of it would have been possible without the unbelievable loyalty of his ex-wife Alicia. She took him in and gave him the stability he needed to heal. And as Nasar herself puts it, this is what makes Nash's story so special. We have plenty of stories about people who rise and then fall, but a rise, a fall, and then an almost impossible resurrection, that's what makes this a legend. And that third act hit its peak in 1994.
The phone rings in his quiet little house in Princeton, and it's the Nobel Committee, calling to honor the work he did as a young man almost 50 years earlier. The Phantom of Fine Hall was now officially a Nobel laureate.
Just incredible.
So, we've walked through this unbelievable life. But what about the book itself? How does Sylvia Nasar's work hold up? Let's break it down.
Okay, the research in this book is just on another level. It's incredibly rigorous. Nasar makes you feel like you understand the math, and she treats the topic of mental illness with so much depth and empathy. Now, if you're going to nitpick, you could say it gets a little clinical at times, and some of the technical math parts might be tough for some readers, but those are really minor quibbles.
Yeah, those are just small things in what is otherwise a massive achievement. For us, A Beautiful Mind gets an exceptional 9.1 out of 10. And you can see why here. That score is really driven by the incredible research and the sheer storytelling power. This book doesn't just tell you facts about John Nash's life. It gives you this deep, profound insight into genius, mental illness, and the whole academic world of that era. It's a must-read.
So, if Nash's story just blew you away, you have got to check these two out. The Man Who Loved Only Numbers is about another totally eccentric math genius, Paul Erdos. And of course, Alan Turing, The Enigma, is the classic biography of another brilliant mind that was tragically misunderstood by the world.
In the end, this is the big question the book leaves you with. A Beautiful Mind isn't just a life story. It makes you think about that razor-thin, mysterious line between a mind that can create entire new worlds and a mind that gets lost in them. It really forces you to ask what we know about the limits of the human mind and its incredible, unbelievable power to heal itself.
Hey, if you got a lot out of this deep dive into a truly beautiful mind, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more explainers coming your way on the books and ideas that really shape our world. Thanks so much for watching.